The Chord Whisperer.
Okay, welcome back to the Chord Whisperer, and today I'm going to be doing kind of a meta-analysis of the Bach Preludes from the Well Tempered Clavier, as I have here. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that I've spent a lot of time analysing all the chords and the harmony and putting them all into seechord charts, which I don't need to show you there because you'll see here. But I haven't really spent any time looking at those charts because I want to do it here with you. Make some discoveries, find out some things that have never been discovered before, look at some patterns that have emerged from music that have never been seen before. That's the exciting thing about it for me. The hard work is done. This is now the top of the ski slope and we just push ourselves up and see where we go. So before we start, let me just outline some of the things that I think I will want to look at. I have put the charts in a way that the entire piece is always depicted as the same length, even if this piece is twice the length of that one. They're all stretched to the same length. And the reason I've done that is so that all the beginnings and the middles and the ends are sort of in the same place, whether the piece is 16 bars long or 67 bars long, to see if there are any patterns that I can see that are consistent across all the preludes, or some of the preludes, or the major ones or the minor ones, that don't necessarily rely on the length of the piece. For example, how is the key established at the start? How long does it take to establish the tonic key? Does that change in major and minor? What happens in the middle? If it modulates, where do they tend to modulate to? Is that different for the major and minor ones? Where's the biggest adventurous harmonic passage, and what happens at the end? Does it finish in a certain way? Again, is that different from major and minor? And so that's why I've put them all the same size, and also then I could get them all on the same bit of paper. And I realised that looking at these can be a little bit baffling, but the point of putting them onto these charts is that the patterns will come out and we don't have to know what they are, what they mean, but then we can take it back to the music and sort of see what's going on at that point and see if there's anything interesting there. It may well be that there isn't, but it may well be that there is. That's what we're looking for. So, without any further ado, let us look at the general shape of a whole piece and what it's doing. If we describe it in terms of moves up, moves down, goes all over the place, are there any themes that come out across, as I say, the beginning, the middle and the end? So I'll probably speed this up for you because I'm going to be going through pretty much every one. But, in case you didn't know, the preludes are arranged in ascending keys, starting from C, and then C minor, and then C sharp, and then C sharp minor, and then D, and D minor, and so on. That's for each book. So each key has two preludes, one from book 1 and one from book 2. And so we get alternating major and minor and major and minor. And I suspect that there will be some differences between those major and minor keys, just because of the fact that they use a different family of chords. C major uses a different family of chords to C minor. And I imagine we'll see that as we go along. So let's jump in and see what happens. So I thought it would be nice, while I'm looking at the following clips, to have a little playing of them in the background. So I thought, I know, I'll play them myself. How hard can that be? Hard, it turns out. Anyway, I've done it. All the music you're going to hear is played by me. It might not all have been the same take, so don't ask me for the album collection of my performances of Bach, because it doesn't exist. It's a good reminder how hard and exciting and incredible it is to play these pieces, as well as to analyse them. So I hope you enjoy. The clip of the piece that I'm analysing will be playing in the background. It's very hard, it doesn't necessarily match up to the exact bit that I'm talking about, unless you're really looking at each chord as it happens. It's just to remind you what it is if you know them, and to let you know what they sound like if you don't know them. Enjoy. So this is book 1, number 1. I haven't put in the tonic lines actually for C there, but I can see that it establishes C quite a lot, and then in the second half it moves away a little bit, and then it comes back to C. It's very simple. Let's stick with the major ones. We have the establishment of the tonic 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Then it goes up, a beautiful sequence down. It goes through the tonic, and then actually the tonic is re-established. It looks like there, about half the way through, and then a fairly traditional walk through to the end. Nothing terribly surprising there. Here's the D major. Tonic is established only once at the start. Then we're going up away from the tonic and back down. It looks like it's re-established there. I can't see any obvious actual modulations. Maybe here, I think we've got quite a few uses of the 4 chord, the G, and again fairly traditional. A little bit of a spike there at the end, which is usually a diminished chord. Nothing too unusual. I would say already my expectations, having looked at 3, are a little bit off. I thought the period of harmonic development would be most at the end. So far they have been actually quite near the start. E major, the key is established. We're finding out that the tonic key, when I say established, I mean there's a perfect cadence in that tonic key, or the root key, or the home key. In this case it's E major. There's a perfect cadence in E major, and then there's another one. Tends to be, starts with the tonic chord, and at least 1, if not 2, if not 3 perfect cadences before we then go off. It's called key establishment. Makes us really feel like we're in that particular key before we, as I say, jump off elsewhere. And this one jumps off again. A lot of harmonic development. Interestingly, very similar to the harmonic development that happens at the end. So maybe we're looking at more of a mirror shape with our development. This next one, F major, the key is established just once this time. Here's our harmonic. It goes up, and that is not surprising because the family of chords in a major key that you're going to use only extend 1 down or round the circle. So if you're in C, you expect an F chord, but you don't expect a B flat chord. But you do expect G, D, A, E, and B, which are all to one side of C if you arrange chords in fifths. So we do expect the harmony to live on that side of C major, whether you see that as around the circle or as I see it up on a C chord chart. We expect major keys to live above the tonic most of the time, and that's obviously what we see. What we're tending to see though is when it moves away from the tonic, it stays up. We don't see the tonic again, in this case, until the key is re-established at the end. So I would say in this one, key establishment at the beginning, key establishment at the end, and then the whole of the middle is a kind of period of harmonic development. A flat major, the key is established twice, 3 times, 4 times. We have something different, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. We're really not going far away from A flat here. We keep coming back to it, but there's really not much harmonic movement at all. We're only 1, 2, 3, 4 chords away in fifths is our maximum harmonic motion. So that I would say is a very conventional piece. It'd be interesting to look at that. A major, another spiky one. I suspect with these spiky ones that they represent a theme or hook or a little passage of music that is repeated in lots of different keys. And so we get these patterns that are happening on the tonic or on the dominant or on the subdominant in the relative minor. And then we're getting patterns that we can see again and again. So this one, the tonic is established many, many times, the first third of the piece and the last third of the piece, and then we have a period of harmonic development in the middle. Number 21, B flat, key establishment, a bit of treble, key establishment, and a really different looking last half to this B flat. Very stable harmony coming all the way home really from halfway to the end. A very soft, shallow landing. Oh, now, what on earth? Are we doing 1-4, 1-4? That's very unusual. Anyway, the key is established here 1, 2, 3 times after the first chord, then a little bit away, then we're back to the home key, and now we have a definite modulation in this one. We definitely have a new home key up here. We're repeating some of the patterns from there, and then we're back home again for our finish. Book 2, number 15 in G, only has one key establishment at the start. I would say this is a very unusual beginning. I'm going to circle that so we can find out what's going on there. And then we have a modulation into the dominant here straight away. Then we come back to the tonic where we expect 3/4 of the way, between half and 3/4 of the way through, really, back to the tonic for our landing. So we've been through all the major preludes. What have we learnt? There are some elements that are almost universally in there. I've said it 1,000 times now. The key is established with perfect cadences at the start. In every single time that happens at least once. Sometimes it happens 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. The key is established. Then when the harmony moves away, it tends to move up the chart, or if you think of it in a circular fifths, clockwise around the circle, C, G, D, A, and E. And sometimes there's a modulation, often to the sixth A, or to the second D, or somewhere around that area. Then some harmonic development and arriving back at the tonic, sometimes even halfway through the piece, and then the whole of the rest of the piece is landing back on the tonic. Sometimes that's delayed till closer to the end. So now we'll check out the minor keys, see what we get from them. Okay, so book 1, Prelude 2, C minor. Now, before I get going, I am expecting much more harmonic movement below the line, or if you think of a circle of fifths, anti-clockwise around the circle, because now C minor, for example, we know it's got an E flat in it. That brings in some potential E flat chords. E flat is around the circle the other way. C, F, B flat, E flat. And depending on whether you flatten the 6th and 7th of the scale or not, that brings in A flat major, B flat major, E flat major as potential chords that will still live in the family of C minor quite happily. I am also expecting some fairly rapid modulations to the relative major. Conventionally, the relative major of C minor would be E flat major, but I'm also expecting some modulations to A flat major, which I consider to be the other relative major of C minor. Number 6, D minor. A little bit of key establishment. Seems to be less key establishment in the minor. And then off we go to the relative major, this time to B flat major. Lots of time in B flat major there. And then really wild harmonic movement. More settled bit in the second half. And we land back home right near the end. There. E minor. Here's our establishment, and here's our modulation to the relative major, G major. F minor, key establishment at the start, and then we dive to the relative major. Within the first quarter of the piece, we visit the relative major. F sharp minor, key is established once, then we dive down to the relative major. Love the look of this one. Some crazy hijinks, establishing the key at the start, and then we jump to the relative major. A minor, here is the key establishment, and now we're going up, but we're modulating to the relative major here. Another reverse circle progression, more of those than in the major ones for sure. Key establishment at the end, but here is some above the line movement that I was expecting. One of the questions that I wanted answered is, in the key signatures with many sharps, does he spend more time going up into double sharp? So for example, if you're in F sharp, does he spend more time up in C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp than he would in a key with flats in or less sharps in? The reason I ask is because when you play these preludes, you seem to spend an awful lot of time having to read double sharps. F double sharp and C double sharp, sometimes even G double sharp, and spending time in really unfamiliar keys with 8 or 9 sharps in their key signatures. And I just wasn't sure whether he was doing this deliberately to sort of show off that he could write in these extraordinary exotic keys, or whether he was more pure and reliable than that, and he was just doing his thing, and it just happened to be that we've ended up in 9 sharps, and it was no bother to him. But you know, sometimes it is weird when you're playing in D sharp major, and you're like, it's E flat major. I know it's E flat major. I know what E flat major feels like and sounds like, but I'm having to read it as D sharp major, and that is not always easy. It gets better with practice. But to C minor classic. Establish the key, jump to relative major within the first chord of repeats. Interesting. D sharp minor. Now, here's a classic. What's the key signature of D sharp minor? 6 sharps, same as F sharp major. It is very rare for a pianist to play this chord and to think of it as D sharp minor. You would think of it as E flat minor. What is the key signature of E flat minor? 6 flats. 6 flats, 6 sharps. What's the difference? Why bother making a distinction? Well, because of the 6th and 7th notes of the scale. That's the melodic minor as it's generally called, and the 6th and the 7th notes change. On the way up we've got C and D, and on the way down we've got, well, if we think of E flat minor, we've got D flat and we've got C flat. However, if we think of this as D sharp minor, then we get into double sharps straight away. D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C double sharp, and D sharp. And that is completely consistent with the minor scale that we're in. So I say we spend more time in E flat minor because we're less in the world of double sharps, which could be confusing to read. However, it strikes me that is that not in E flat minor? So if I look at book 1, number 8, E flat minor. Book 2, number 8, D sharp minor. Go discuss. Probably of no relevance whatsoever. Anyway, disappointingly after all that, we are not spending a lot of time. In fact, the only exotic place we go above the line is 2 above, which is D sharp, A sharp, E sharp. So we spend some time in E sharp major. Definitely not somewhere we're used to being. E sharp major, why would you ever call it that? Because F major only has 1 flat. E sharp major has a lot. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 sharps. All right, that's quite weird. E sharp major, like it. Good work, Bach. Anyway, key establishment, modulation to relative major. A lot of time then spent in this lovely E sharp world. This has to be looked at as a reverse circle progression lick. Why are they all appearing in the minor? I guess because they're spending more time below the line, in my way of thinking about music. And so then to get from the relative major back to the relative minor, what better way than a reverse circle progression? A minor, yes, okay. So this is one of those thematic movements where we see the shape coming back. I mean, this just looks crazy. Totally crazy. The harmony is all over the place, so I suspect that is from a little motif. Okay, I've looked at all the minor preludes. We have definitely seen some patterns that are definitely different from the major preludes. They establish the key, but often not as much as the majors. Maybe just once, twice is common. Whereas in the major ones it was generally 2 or 3 or 4 times. However, some of them do establish it for longer. But as expected, we either modulate to the relative major, or one of the relative majors. Remember, in my mind there are 2. From C we can go to, from C minor, We can go to E flat or A flat major. If there's not a modulation to those keys, we are almost exclusively seeing those major chords being used, which we would completely expect because they're in the family of the minor key. But I think more of a reliance on them than the other way around. I don't think the major keys rely on their relative minors so much as the minors rely on their relative majors. So we are seeing key establishment, move to the relative major, seeing a lot more reverse circle progressions back up the chart to the tonic again, and then establishment of the tonic at the end. Less periods of what I would call harmonic development and perhaps more periods of thematic patterning, harmonic sequences or sequences, melodic sequences that come out in the harmony. So that is a kind of meta-analysis of the major and the minor preludes, and no great surprises. I definitely expected there to be that reliance on the relative major for minor keys more than the reliance on the relative minor for major keys. We've seen that. Here are some of the things that I was not expecting. A lot of the time we come back to the tonic much sooner than I thought. I thought really we'd save that for the end. Talk about endings in a minute. But sometimes it rarely strays the whole piece, but it normally does in the first half and then it comes back halfway through sometimes and really just stays on that. I wasn't expecting that. I also wasn't expecting there to be quite so much harmonic development near the beginning of the piece. I thought that would be in the last kind of at the 3/4 point or just before that. But definitely probably just as much harmonic development in the first quarter as the last quarter. We then see, I didn't really see any evidence of more interesting use of harmony in the keys and more sharps, which I thought I might, but that's interesting that that's not the case. It just turns out that playing in E sharp major is unusual enough for it to feel like he's doing it deliberately, but he's not, by what I can see. Okay, that's it for this episode of The Chord Whisperer, looking at the meta-analysis of the Bach Preludes. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next time for a more detailed look at what happens at the start and the middle and at the end. What else do you need to know? Also, I'm going to have a look at some specific ones in more detail. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a like and a subscribe if you liked it, and if you want to subscribe. See you next time.